I wanted to begin by just acknowledging the fact that those, what we call degradations, that our earth has been degraded through the way in which we have lived with earth, and we are degraded as well. So Catholic Earthcare, I would like to imagine, with NATSICC, are trying to imagine a future whereby we come home. And that there is a new shift. There is a consciousness about we need to be better stewards. And we need to connect into the wisdom that your people, your culture, your spirituality is so at home with. And that's a journey that Earthcare acknowledge that needs to happen hand in hand with you. I just wanted to share with you, if it's okay, a couple of key points about what the science is suggesting. In this year, the World Watch Institute released the most recent figures and statistics, very briefly. The equivalent of 112 Empire State Buildings are extracted from Earth every day. Humanity now uses the resources and services of 1.3 Earths. So we are going beyond the capacity of our planet to sustain not only itself but us. Now, this is a scientific problem, but at its core, it is a spiritual crisis. Now, we were talking this morning at breakfast at the football last night. You might not have even been aware of how bombarded potentially you would be through advertising. Just think about the images that were presented to you that tried to get into your mind space, and what is that suggesting, particularly if you weren't aware of it. It's consumerism and it's killing us. But the science is saying that without significant action, median temperature increases would be 5.1 degrees Celsius by 2100. It's not, I mean, okay, it's 90 years away, but it's not a long time for 5.1 degrees increase to happen. That's taken millions of years to happen. And we are living in such a way that that's potentially, unless things change, going to be the case. And significant sea level rise. And the Torres Strait, I think it was last year, that low-lying land, and you can see the devastation of king tides. This now becomes a social justice issue, not only on the impact of climate refugees, but if you look at the fact that the people who have caused this devastation are the people who aren't being impacted on necessarily. I mean, we suffer, but the people who are suffering the most are the people from places that have not contributed through their lifestyle to the issue.
On Australia's northern frontier, just 4 kilometres off the coast of Papua New Guinea, are the low mud islands of Boigu and Saibai. This is what they looked like in January, when a king tide combined with a minor tidal surge from a distant Category 1 cyclone. Locals say it was like nothing they've seen.
What we've seen in the last 10 years is totally a whole new different weather pattern in our region.
Constant erosion in recent years is washing away sea walls and sacred grave sites. But while the federal government has committed $150 million to help Pacific nations adjust to climate change, requests for $22 million to help the Torres Strait have fallen on deaf ears. A little further south, coral islands like Warraba are also threatened. Locals have done what they can to build makeshift sea walls. Now rumours are circulating that the government has given up on these islands and is secretly preparing for a forced relocation.
It makes the people think that the government wants us to relocate.
The people of the low-lying Torres Strait Islands are understandably worried about their future, but there's an aspect of this story which may worry the rest of Australia as well. Just to the north of here are the vast lowlands of Papua New Guinea's western province, and there are fears that if sea levels rise, the people who live there may not flee to their undeveloped highlands.
There is a huge issue that can lead to a lot of national crisis that will happen for our country.
The islands are now bracing for the next king tides, which will come in January. Jeff Waters, ABC News, Torres Strait.
If we have the 5.1 degrees increase, then things like the Amazon forest will become savanna. Look, this is incredible stuff. Coral reefs will die, most of the world's vulnerable fisheries will collapse. And it doesn't take long then to think if that's happening, and those cultures that rely on that natural ecosystem for food, and then you have all these what we call resource wars, it all feeds into each other. And potentially by the year 2050, 40 years' time, 1 billion refugees as a result. Now you might be thinking, hang on, what's this got to do with me? It's got everything to do with us. Because globalisation has presented, I think, many negatives, but it also provides great hope and great opportunities that we are connected more than we ever have been. But what are we going to do? If everyone lived like Americans, the Earth could sustain only 1.4 billion people. Now, I think from last I heard there's about 6 billion or something. You know, so we are way beyond our capacity. And Leunig, I love Leunig, he says, if you just want to read, I'll read it out to you because it might be a little bit small print, but it says, there's more stuff in the world than ever before. Stuff you can touch, stuff you can think, stuff you can use and consume, stuff you can know with all your senses. The growth of stuff is out of control. It is now being created by means of an unstoppable exponential chain reaction. Stuff has become a major threat to freedom and happiness. It destroys nature and peace. It steals time and space. It fouls beauty. It is relentless, virulent, invasive and addictive. Stuff makes us exhausted and mad. There is too much stuff. The following common statements can be taken very seriously. I'm stuffed. And the world is stuffed. So what do we do? This story has always been present, except we have been, what Tom Berry would say, autistic to the world. Autistic being not connected, not aware. And so Pope John Paul famously, I say famously because it's the mandate of Catholic Earthcare, we must stimulate and sustain the ecological conversion, that your heart and mind shifts so that you become aware of those bombarding commercials, so that you do look after your brother who's in the islands and the Pacific, who's suffering. And I will be conscious of how I use energy. I will now take a group of people to church in the minibus and everybody else I can fit on. I mean, these decisions that you are making are the decisions that we need to make on behalf of our future generations. Everybody plays a part in this issue. Elizabeth Johnson says this, that, and Indigenous spirituality, I believe, and forgive me if I'm not saying this correctly, a strong sense of Mother Earth, in that all creatures and siblings are from the same womb, the brood of one mother of the universe who dwells in bright darkness. In her, as once literally in our own mother, we live and move and have our being. So the damage we do to Earth, we are doing to our own mother, that gives us life. And it's not only a physical degradation that happens, it's spiritual.